Hey, everybody. Got a great episode today. Continuing the series talking to the top salespeople at some of the toughest sales and some of the best companies out there to kind of give you a sense of the journey that people go through, how they become better and better at sales. And this story I think you're really going to like, very similar to the ones I've been doing. So if you're interested in large, complex sales and how to win them, block out your competition, keep them moving when they have tremendous impact on a company, you're going to love this episode. But hey, there's a lot going on out there now, and I want to address it. I don't want to pretend I'm a doctor or anything, but as a sales rep, I've gone through some huge upsets, 9/11, the financial crisis, and this has a little bit of a feeling to it, but I don't think it's nearly going to have the impact that those did. But there is going to be a hiccup. Clearly, it's already happened. So what do we do at this time? A lot of us panic, get scared. Some of us will be changing jobs. Some of us are just going to be frustrated because very little is going to be getting done. So what do you do? The worst thing you can do is do nothing. We want to take action. We want to improve our skills. We want to learn new things. We want to think about it differently. We want to be there and prepared so when things do slowly come back to normal again, which they will, I think probably faster than any of us imagine. I think the running scared just emphasizes the mammal-to-mammal selling premise, that because the behavior you see is not logical, it's not systematic, it's not conscious mind thinking, it's primal mind thinking. So guess what? The ones who have a level head, who use this time appropriately. So what do I do, Brian? Prospecting won't work the same. You're right. I think after this, prospecting the way we used to is slowing down. You can never say anything's dead with people because something always works some of the time. But it is definitely changing. And that's why I came up with Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting, because what it is a way to generate an organic conversation. I see other people there just touting the same old stuff from 20 years ago and modeling it a little different, personalizing it, and that makes it better, but it's still a pitch. And right now, people are in the primal brain, the mammal brain. They don't want to hear a pitch. The last thing they want is somebody taking something from them. That's why people are hoarding toilet paper right now. It's insanity. But what they do want is to connect with other people. And when you see small acts of kindness, people resonate with that. But how do we do that in sales? Well, I came up with a systematic way of doing that so you can have an organic conversation with people. And the hardest part reps have with it is putting away the old talking about themselves, talking about their differentiators, their value proposition, asking for 15 minutes at a time. You're not there. That's a commercial. That's a robocall. I show you how to approach strangers because that's right now, it's either you're a stranger or you're a friend. There's not much in between. And you have to come up with a system for that. So prospecting is going to become insanely difficult for the foreseeable future, but still possible. I'm still doing it. I love doing it. The other thing that's going to become hard, deals are going to be more complex and longer and are more likely to stall for obvious reasons. So we have to become better at that. So why not learn about it during the downtime? Check out the courses at b2brevenue.com. Hit the training tab. There's also the frequently asked questions in the show notes of the podcast. So just tap on the artwork or swipe up. You can see them there. I'll sum it up at the end and give everybody an update who's already in the courses. Now the time's to double down on them. Listen to the office hours. Schedule one-on-ones. Let's make this time useful because the clock didn't stop. You may be working at home, but we're still supposed to be working. Let's get into the interview. I think you're really going to enjoy this, and I'll sum it up at the end. Here we go. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm here based in San Francisco. My name is Mike Cito. I've been in sales, I started back in 1992, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the old guys. And I've been working in the high-tech industry all that time.
At some pretty successful companies, too.
Yeah, I started my career at ADP. Now, a lot of people, I believe in ADP a lot. They do a really good job of preparing people in all the different types of aspects of sales. So I did the hard thing. I did telemarketing, I did foot canvassing, I did mails. Foot canvassing. How many people have done that before? Yeah. Did all of the different things that you need for sales. But what it really taught you is just really the baseline of just communication, dealing with customers, objections, all the things that you need as you're starting out your career.
Yeah. And then you moved into Sun Microsystems?
Yeah, I stayed at ADP for about, 6 years. And then I went to one of ADP's subsidiaries called AG Consulting. And that's when I really started diving into enterprise. So I started working on pre-Y2K, believe it or not, pre-Y2K consulting services, where I sold PeopleSoft, Oracle, ADP engagements for large companies. And then I went into public sector, so I got to dive into public sector in that as well. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I went into Sun, and I took the ride with the .com boom and boom and bust. We all remember that.
I remember it. That's it, because we had the Y2K thing, then 9/11, and then
yes.
or the crash, then 9/11.
Yes. Exactly. And so I got to live through all of that. And then when you think about the 08 crash of the market, that really put a lot of pressure on companies trying to make decisions and buying stuff. Yeah. So we had to live through that. And then back in 2010, I started with Salesforce. So I've been on the Salesforce journey for about 10 years now. So I started with Salesforce. Now I'm at a company called Financial Force, which is a company that Salesforce invests in, and we create applications all in that Salesforce platform.
Cool.
So if you think about it, I've been through kind of the whole thing, starting with ADP all the way through to where we are today in the cloud. It's really interesting.
And who is the persona you sell to now? Is it the CFO? Is it operations?
Well, it's a couple things. So it always ends up with the CFO, as you know. So as you're going through your journey with the customers, usually the line of business is that the application I sell is really for service delivery. So these are the guys that are running delivery organizations, usually sales operations and sales, COO, IT, as well as the CFO, inevitably, who makes the end decision on the purchase.
Okay. And what's your territory look like? Do you have named accounts or geography?
Strategic named accounts. So here, I used to be just enterprise, but then they put me just doing strategic named accounts. I just handle a handful of accounts, which is great. It allows you really to focus on these accounts and really get in there.
Yeah. So. And are they already customers that you're expanding, or are they greenfield?
No, not all of them. So all of them definitely were not customers. So every single one of them, and as you know, in this journey with enterprise, once you sell them, you kind of keep them for life because you build the relationships and you continue to expand your footprint into other parts of the business. And so every customer I'm dealing with now, I've sold, and I continue to expand relationships with them into other groups and divisions.
Okay. And what do you find the hardest part is?
Recently, or just in general?
In general.
Well, in general, in my business, I'm usually the one doing the prospecting. I'm the one getting in myself. Yeah. We don't get leads. No one is really looking around, hey, can you sell me something from Financial Force? They don't go to trade shows and say, please call me and sell me something. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So I have to really go in, learn about the business, do my research, and then be able to come back with some type of proposal or some type of vision, because it has to start with a vision that applies to somebody that cares about it, right? And if you miss that in the very beginning, you're not going to go anywhere. And there's lots of people in these companies that'll waste your time at the lower levels just looking at everything, and they'll never have the decision to buy anything, right? And so the hardest part, to answer your question, is is just getting in, finding out the business, finding out who the potential sponsors are. Or do I have connections? I love LinkedIn. I do a lot of LinkedIn cross things. Do I have people in my network or somebody else's network to get me into? And then I got to figure out, what is the messaging, and does my messaging actually apply to something that somebody at the company at a higher level really cares about? And that's really the hard part is really coming out with that impactful vision that has impact, that someone will say, okay, let's invest some time with these guys. They know what they're talking about. And really, I mean, we're not a really big company, but we've been very successful getting in there and showing impact.
Yeah. And since you have a limited territory, you've got to make it work.
Yes. And as you know, with these large companies, they don't happen overnight. So usually you've got to have deals in the pipe many months before the end of your fiscal year. So I've been very fortunate that I've just been working the territory long enough. I've been here at Financial Force, this is my 8th year. And so I have a long run rate with some of these companies. And, we have projects ongoing, throughout the year. It gets a little scary at the beginning of the year after you finish your fiscal and like, okay, what's the pipeline? That's where I'm in right now. We just started our fiscal. So everybody's like, what do you got for Q1? I'm like, still working on it.
But, right. They're asking you and you don't even know your territory or your comp plan, or you just got back from kickoff. And
that's the story. I just got back from kickoff. We just got our quotas and they're already asking for what's the Q1 commit. And then you end up with a commit that's like, okay, I'll figure it out. But I've got the big deals in the pipe, and with strategic named accounts, you're typically very lumpy. You're not going to be very predictable, but you just got to be very consistent and have that vision going, and make sure you use your executives to get you in the right place.
And is that what your technique to get in is through your network?
That's part of it. I'll use whatever I have at my disposals, whether it's an existing customer that they have an alliance with. A lot of times what I found recently is they buy one of our customers, acquisitions. And that's what I did with a deal that I just did this last quarter. They bought one of our longstanding customers. So I immediately went there, built the relationships, and guess what? Whenever an acquisition happens, you have a period of time that they're trying to decide what to do. Yeah. So I was able to work with those executives because they didn't want to lose Financial Force, and work with them to build up a business case with the senior leadership. And then from there, that was the groundswell that's now turned into this massive deal. That's the largest deal our company's ever worked on now. So it's amazing. Yeah, it's great. It's really good. Nice. Yeah. It's
what do they typically use before?
Just to tell a little bit about the application. So my application is basically it's called professional services automation. So we automate the delivery process. So anything around staffing, resourcing, skills management, those types of things. And a lot of times, again, this was an untapped market 8 years ago. There wasn't really a lot of solutions. You had Oracle and SAP. And a lot of times what I find is that they're using spreadsheets to manage these businesses. Or they'll use a heavily customized version of SAP that they've really bastardized to a point where it's unmanageable and very not flexible, right? Yeah. The interesting thing is, as companies continue to adopt Salesforce, what I found is that's created a situation where data is in one place, and then there's a big problem to try and get it into their back-end systems that's very archaic, and these back-end processes. So there's a lot of mess there. Yeah. And where Financial Force helps is with this application. If we put everything in the Salesforce platform, it really just streamlines that whole process from the time they sell it, the time they deliver it, and then they actually collect money and show some revenue and margin in their backend system.
And can you get much leverage through the Salesforce team, or is it just
absolutely? You can. Absolutely. We work very closely with them. Salesforce does a phenomenal job working wide and deep in these companies, so they become a very strategic partner for me. I also use global SIs pretty frequently, as well as boutique partners that I have as well that help us. And that all that community is you can't go in and work these deals by yourself. It's just not going to happen. Right. You have to have a team, and you have to have your partners across the board, and you got to go through that journey and good effective communication. No surprises, no games. It just doesn't work that way, because if you screw up and you do something that a partner wasn't thinking about, you can really destroy that bond that you have.
Yeah. And when I talk to reps, there's typically the two big problems. One's getting in, and the second staying in. Right?
Yeah. Well, a lot happens. What happened in my situation with this company that I just sold is they changed their whole leadership from the CEO down. So all of our sponsors started leaving, and we lost the CIO, we're losing the CFO, we lost the COO, but we lost the CEO. Everybody started leaving. And then when you bring in that new management, it's like, oh my gosh, we've got to start over. Yeah. And it's we still got a deal in, and we're now working towards that big deal that we have. But there's a little bit of a reset when you have those change that happens, and you can't control that. That's the unfortunate thing about what we do is you start a relationship and something changes, you have to start over. And so I'm now in the process of rebuilding those connections. I've already investigated everybody and where we have connections, where we don't. And I've already started targeting kind of, what is our messaging and vision that we're going to have to come back and explain to the new leadership.
And is there a typical sales cycle or time-wise? It's definitely in the months, and probably a year and a half, probably.
Yeah. So this one I've been working for quite some time. But I've seen sales cycles anywhere between the shortest, and that was to this day, the most fun sales cycle I had was 8 months, and that's unusual for me. Yeah. But usually I'm seeing 12 to 18 months for these deals. So yeah.
And how do you sell against status quo and just do nothing or stick with it? And we know what we're doing with a spreadsheet.
That's usually what happens. And that really goes back to that vision, Yeah. So if you think about it, if you lose to status quo, that means you didn't get an impactful enough vision that someone really cared about. So if they're saying, great, that vision is great, but it's nice, but it really isn't impactful enough to spend millions of dollars with you. So we're just going to stay here. That means you didn't do a good enough job identifying what their key root problem was that really meant something to somebody, right? Because you need that senior sponsor to push it through.
Yeah, because the end user might champion it, but they don't have the political know-how to get it done.
No, I mean, champions are great, and you need lots of champions. But the one with the money is until you bring them in, the one you need, until you get them in on board and they actually are ready to sign something, you're going to have to fight all the way to the end.
Oh. Now, going from like ADP to Sun, and now to, I think this is probably the most complex sale you've had, right?
Yeah. I'd say, with the exception of that time where I was working with public sector is its own animal.
Hard.
It's very hard because everything's done by RFP, everything is done by committee. They have all these rules about minority-owned businesses and all these things that they have that I never thought about before. It's really not, it's a little less set, right? You have to follow those rules. That's a little complex. I'd say right now what I'm dealing with is probably the most complex I've dealt with. Yeah. Because cloud is also evolving, and the way people negotiate with us is evolving too. I've just seen in the last 18 months, I think companies have become much more proficient in how they negotiate with cloud companies. They ask for everything we can't do. Termination for convenience, 90-day payment terms, unlimited liability is what I'm dealing with right now with a very big company. Uncapped liability. I'm like, gosh, we're just we're not that big of a company. We can't give you uncapped for everything. So it's very interesting how this all works. And they all now don't want to buy these big deals up front. They want to wait through implementation and kind of the appliance mode where they pay for it when they get usage. And again, we want to pay for it when we have value. That is very difficult from our perspective because we want to sell it all up front. Right. We don't get revenue until they pay for licenses. Yeah. So that's an anomaly we're dealing with right now, which is companies want to do a pilot and then from the pilot grow into something bigger. Yeah.
So it's very different than the on-prem.
Yes. Yeah. Right. On-prem, the Oracle model, I guess, where they say, okay, give us several $1 million and we don't care if you deploy
perpetual license forever.
Perpetual forever. And as we buy companies, we charge you more. That doesn't work as much anymore. And that's what you're seeing right now is companies are really moving away as they adopt more of this cloud model. I think Amazon's done a fantastic job, just kind of the pay-as-you-go model. And that's why they've done so well. And as you see that also is having an effect on on the cloud companies because they want us to do that model where just, let us just deploy it and then we'll pay for it when it's actually being used.
Yeah, that's difficult. And how do you sell against that? Is it just education, or?
It's education. It's partially, part of it is we really can't operate in that model in something. So what we end up usually compromising on is a paid for pilot, where we start, the pilot and we run through a period of time. And then from there, we have some metrics in place on how they ramp their deal and how, there's all these things that we can do to handle that. But the customer has to be willing to invest. It's none of this, you do everything.
You do everything and we'll let you know what it's worth.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And if you get to that point, what that means is, again, it goes back to your vision. You didn't do a good enough job presenting the value of that, right? Oh. And customers don't want to see a very long implementation cycle that somewhere down the road they may or may get value. You have to be able to present that in the very beginning and show them very quick wins along the way as you're going through your milestones.
Now, given that you've been there pretty much 8 years now, that's a long time for a rep. It's a good sign. How have you seen your skills evolve?
Well, it's actually quite interesting. I've become more attuned with customers. You have to listen more. The reps, you always think listening is really important. This has really forced me to really dig deep and figuring out really what is this person trying to tell me and what's the underlying message there? Yep. Is there something there that he's just giving me an objection that just went right over my head? So I see my listening skills have really gotten better, being more in tune with the customer. The fact that I've been doing this as long as I have been, I see customers say kind of the same things in many different ways. And so that experience of being through it, I can actually help the customer feel better, where I can give examples of, hey, this customer had the same situation and concern, and here's how we overcame it. I can bring up references of customers that I've done business with and help them feel better. But just handling the objections, I think, is another one that's really helped. As you spend more and more time with focusing on one area, your skills of being able to handle those objections becomes invaluable. So I help a lot of our associates here with some of these things, whether it's deal creation or handling objections, or how to present in a really difficult situation, how to deal with various competitors. Those are all things that become very valuable over time.
And how do you become better at it? Is it just osmosis, being around it so much? Or
Well, I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. I read a lot of things. I've gotten a lot better reading 10Ks. Yeah. I was good at reading 10Ks, but now I've taken a little different spin on what I look for in 10Ks, looking for different trends. And what does that trend mean? What do I interpret that into? Some value that we can do. A lot of times people look at a 10K and it's like, oh my goodness, what does this mean? What is, and really what you have to do, and I teach a lot of reps this, I take a step back, and the things that you really look for is, what does this mean? When the operational expenses are real high, what does that actually mean? And how can you make that something valuable that your product can help? Maybe they did an acquisition. Maybe there's something where they're concerned about a competitor. Yeah. What does all that mean, and how do you help them? Customers have issues with customer sat, right? That's a big one. These are all areas that we can come and put as part of our vision, right? And so as I've become a little more proficient of creating those stories, it's worked out really well for me, because again, the vision is not the end all be all. As you know, you have to take it, test it, and then validate it, and then evolve it as you learn more, as you're engaging with the executives. And they're going to tell you right away whether you're in or out very quickly.
Yeah, because they're asking themselves, why are we doing this?
Exactly. And I have a pretty high percentage of when I reach out and finally get that vision, I usually get a meeting. I'm usually pretty successful of getting them to think about it. And most of the time, what I find, most execs are okay assigning another executive to work with me for a period of time. Yeah. It's just you just got to stay, again, you just got to continue to be willing to say, okay, I don't know everything. You got to be humble, right? Because that's another thing, is if I go in and say, this is it, I locked it down, you're going to miss it. Right. You have to be humble and say, look, you have to take everybody's opinion. If a partner says, no, you're way off, you have to take that all into consideration and be willing to change your vision and direction if you have to.
And how do you become good at communicating about what they care about? Because
specific to the customer.
Yeah, because most salespeople, they know about their product, their customers, and they're good for about an hour conversation.
Well, I always give the example of this, and I do this with the reps. Is okay, you're now talking to a CFO, and you go in and you say, okay, look at my screens, look how pretty they are, look at all these menus, look at the drop down. Yeah. CFOs don't care. If you can't go in there and say, look, I congratulations on a great quarter. I see that you guys are concerned with some extra expenses you've had, and your margins are a little low, and you'll be able to bring it back to what they care about. You guys are you have some issues right now with some turnover with some of your key resources. We have an application here that can help you with evolving and managing that a little bit better. A different conversation, a very different conversation than just going in, here's a screen. And I mean, I don't think I demo to any CFO ever. Yeah. It's just not going to work out well for you.
That's it, because you got to kind of prepare for that. You got to think through, how do they view the world?
Yes.
And what do they care about that's adjacent to my product?
That's right. And each executive is going to be a little different. Like the CEO is going to care about shareholder value more than anything. CFO is going to care about all expenses, margins, revenue, all of that stuff, right? Operations is COO, everything about operations and efficiencies, you get it. There's a class, I think if you looked at my profile, there's a class that I took that I really believe in. It's called Executive Conversation. Have you heard of those guys?
No.
They're basically ex-CXOs that go around and talk to salespeople about, when I was a CFO and the salesperson came in and they would give examples of letters that people, or things that people try to get in. And he's like, can you believe this guy came to me and told me this? And then what they do is they tell you what would most resonate. You've got 15 seconds with me. What is the thing that you're going to say that's going to get me to actually listen? Yeah. And so they're fantastic. I mean, it's basically all ex-CXOs in varying positions, and they just teach salespeople, how do you talk to me? If I'm a CIO, how do you talk to me? If I'm a CFO, how do you talk to me? And it's that really changed the way I looked at, how I approach some of these executives.
That's it. I tell people to go talk to their CFO.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's like, how do you get evaluated? What do you care about?
Yeah.
If a salesperson was to call you, why would you take their call?
Exactly. And it's a great thing. And I talk to our CFO all the time, and he has a very, very different view on how he looks at things. And I'm like, I hate to sell to you. You'd be horrible.
They assume everything's a lie.
Oh, you're bringing back some good memories there. Yeah. No, but it's a good learning. I mean, that's all part of the things that as salespeople have to do. Is we've got to continue to evolve our skill set and our craft. That's an excellent suggestion. Talk to your executives. And I actually took a presentation I did for that big customer, and I shared it with my CFO. I was like, "What do you think about this?" And he poked holes all over it. I'm like, "Oh God." I thought it was really good, but he really poked a lot of holes in it, and I really changed my messaging.
That's it. And like, go talk to procurement. Go talk to your legal people. Yeah. Go talk to your CIO.
Yeah.
And listen to the podcast that they listen to. They're dry as can be, but that's how they think, right?
Yes, it is. I'm like, how do you sit here and listen to this?
Tax code, EBITDA, all this stuff. You're like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right. But you've got to be able to communicate with them where they are.
Yeah, at their level. And it's about relationship, right? It's about relating to their issue and their problem. And as salespeople, that's what we have to do. We have to be chameleons. We have to be able to switch and change to make it relevant for them. Because if not, you're just going to be another lizard. You're not going to be something to care about, that's another lizard.
And if you even can just come up with the great questions, what does a CFO want to hear, want to talk about? And how do you get them to talk about it?
Yeah, exactly.
What do they care about? Why does it matter to them?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. They really don't care about your screens. Honestly,
not at all.
They don't care about your screens. They don't care about how cool it is and it's on the Salesforce platform. They really don't care about that stuff. What they care about is, at the end of the day, is how are you going to reduce their expenses, improve their margins, make them more profitable.
Survive an audit.
Survive an audit. Yes. And you also got to know when I listen to every of my customers, quarterly and annual, announcements
Calls.
that they have and the calls, and you learn a lot from that,
Right.
And the other thing too is when they go dark, they're usually preparing for that, weeks in advance. So your timing has to be good too, because if you're trying to talk to them about in the middle of them prepping for their annual, call, you're not going to be, you're going to be an irritation, so
Right.
you have to know that as well.
Yeah, because you basically newsjack what they're talking about and worried
Yes.
about, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because that's what's on their mind.
Yeah, exactly. There's one thing that I always look at that the CEO, that some companies do and some don't, is the shareholder letter. So the shareholder letter tells basically in a very brief summary everything that they're doing well, things that they're concerned about, and it's a really nice summary. So I point a lot of salespeople to the shareholder letter if you can get one. If they're publicly traded, just get a copy of it. You can find it. It's usually, you just got to look for it a little bit. But that's been one of the things that really just kind of helps me hone, those things that, okay, this is what the company really cares about. And here's what they think they're doing well. And here's what they think they're not doing so well. And they do that in a couple pages. And this is fantastic.
And what drives you as a sales rep?
Money.
Don't beat around the bush.
Operated. I'm right to the point. It's money, right? I mean, it's definitely providing for the family. The other thing is really the challenge. I mean, I'm all about the challenge. How do I take a situation where no one has any communication and then turn it into a multi-million-dollar deal in a relationship for my company? That's what motivates me. How do I transform the relationships from where they are today, which is nothing? That's that challenge, the motivation, and the money that comes with it is really what drives me.
Because you probably don't run into the classic beauty contest sale where they're looking at you and someone else. You're starting it from scratch.
Yeah, if I get in a situation where someone says, "Here's an RFP," a lot of times I don't respond to those because you're part of the beauty. You're part of the beauty contest, and you're done.
Yeah.
Usually, what happens is I create the beauty contest. I help write the rules, and they bring in other people to round the track. As they've already, I even help write the RFP in some situations. That's a really strong position of power in any situation. And most of the time, what I'm dealing with is no decision, or stay as we do, or it's never me and this other competitor. It's usually
someone else.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And is that what you look for in other reps? That money motivation? Because when I don't see that, I've never seen a successful salesperson.
well, if they don't answer that question first as money, then you've got a problem, because it's like, oh, I just want to talk to people.
I want to be, I'm a people person.
I'm a people. I hate that. Okay. I absolutely hate that.
That's what support is for.
Okay. No, it's not going to work that way. No. So money operation is very critical for all salespeople. I mean, I think you and I kind of come from the same cloth, I think. Yeah. But I look for that a lot in salespeople, is what is their motivation? And definitely money's got to be one of them, because that's what it's all about. Right. And you're not here just to make 100%. You're here to make 150, 200% and beyond. That's where you really start to make money, right? And so I look for that drive, because you can't teach that to people. Right. You can teach
how, but you can't teach why.
No, I can't teach people how to be hungry. I can't teach you how to be, go, 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 go. That persistence I cannot teach. You cannot teach persistence. You can act like you're persistent, but you can't teach it.
And what would you say is kind of like what you do better than you see 80% of the other salespeople do?
Oh, I am incredibly competitive and persistent, probably more so than anybody. Yeah. I think that's where I shine, is I work really, really hard. I try to work smart, but I think I outwork the other people. And that's really my competitors. Outmaneuver, outgoing through, you have to outsell people, right? Because these people are good out there. And I think what I think I do is I network really well with people. I get a great alignment. But I just work hard, and you have to just keep it on.
And where's that come from? That's something you learned, the way you were raised, a particular activity?
Yeah, well, I've been in competitive sports for a long time, and I've been doing martial arts for a really long time. Yeah. The latest thing I do, and you believe this or not, is I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Okay. Wow. So I'm 52 years old, and I'm there, fighting every day with, anywhere from teenager to 20 something really buffed out guys, and fighting. So, and that's for me, just the struggle of just being able to fight another person and be able to submit them or whatever it is. I mean, it just, that's my person. My person is I'm very competitive, right? And I found something that I've been doing for a long time that just allows me to have that outlet. And again, it just drives it also helps me clear my head. If there's a problem I can't figure out at work, I'll go and I'll train for a few hours and I'll come back and like, okay, I got it, clear-headed.
There's a lot of transferability of that mindset to selling.
I think so. You got to, the thing about martial arts, but also jiu-jitsu in general, is you got to be humble. Salespeople have to be humble. And I get beat sometimes. I get choked out. I get, things happen. I don't get hurt, but it does happen. And you have to just tap out. And that just, giving into the fact that, okay, I lost, but then going back and says, okay, I got another shot. I'm going to try this again, and then try something a little different. That's sales, right? I mean, sometimes you got to tap out and reset and then go for it again. But if you tap out and walk away, then, there's your problem right there. The problem is you.
You missed the lesson and the grit of coming back.
Yeah. The mindset that I have with every prospect I have, and this is the mindset I tell everybody, is sales are not lost. They're just delayed. Yeah. Right. So you're just delayed. That just means, okay, maybe you lost to your competition. At some point, you just keep on there. At some point, you'll have another shot to maybe try and do it again. Or maybe you didn't do a good job of your vision and decided to stay with status quo. That doesn't mean it's no forever.
Right.
This person didn't grant you a meeting. Guess what? There's 100 other people for you to call that you can maybe try and call them too. It's the same thing, right? And so my point, and that's why I always tell people, if you give up, then you've lost. Right. And that's the only time you've lost, is when you walk away or give up. And so by telling people, sales are never lost, they're just delayed. And that's the mindset of a salesperson, that you have to just go for it and just keep going and going and going. That's what they pay us for.
Cool. Hey, it's been a great conversation. Where can people go to follow you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. So, Mike Cito on LinkedIn. So you can absolutely follow me there. I welcome any comments. I hope this was helpful for everybody.
What I love about this series is that we're not finding the traditional perception of what enterprise salesperson is. Either, the MBA with the intense network or martini drinking executives and, Don Draper, good looks. Not that any of them aren't handsome and beautiful people, but we have that perception that the person either has this network that's based off of golfing or 50 years of experience. We've gotten young people in their early 20s. We've gotten senior, serious salespeople with, decades of experience. But the pattern that seems to come out is very consistent. One, that outward mindset. Now, outward mindset is not just focusing on the customer. It's thinking like the customer. I put a video out on LinkedIn. It's also on YouTube about the outward mindset. And I've done a lot of episodes on it. And it's a keen distinction. It's curiosity. It's interest in the other person. It's not just helping them. The analogy that I had was when I go on my running trail, it used to be a railroad. They've done this all over the country. The railroad isn't needed anymore. They turn it into a trail. So it's shared by walkers, runners, baby strollers, bicyclists, rollerbladers, and everyone's in their own head. Everyone thinks that everyone else has got to look out for them. The speed limit is supposed to be 15, but people go as fast as they can on their bike. They don't alert themselves to other people, like, hey, I'm passing, or a little bell. I've seen people take, unexpected U-turns without even looking, and the bike goes right into it. I've seen deer in the middle of the lane, and I put my hand down to tell the people to slow down, and they think I'm just telling them to slow down because they're going too fast. No, I'm trying to save their life by not hitting 3 or 4 deer that are just sitting in the trail. And everybody is all about themselves. No one's thinking about other people. People are walking four abreast and taking up the whole trail. And like when you're a runner, you're going faster than the walkers. When you're a biker, you're going faster than the runners. And when it gets busy, it gets pretty hectic and people get kind of mad. And this is what's missing in sales. And it's natural because we're under such pressure that it's hard to think like our clients. It's hard to show interest in them. It's hard to be curious about them. But this is a skill that we have to learn. And, so how do you learn it, Brian? Well, it takes work. In the course, Start the Conversation, Get the Meeting, I've profiled pretty much every persona within a company. CFO, CEO, CRO. So what I do is I break down what they care about professionally and personally. What words resonate with them? Are they fear-based or desire-based? You have to know this stuff because you're starting a conversation with them about them, not about us. It's critical that you learn this skill because it's been consistent across all the great salespeople. They're very good listeners. They're very curious. They're very interested in the people around them. A key distinction between great salespeople versus good salespeople. And I got to tell you, the B players, you see it all the time. The consistency there is they think they're just good enough. It's, was it Dunbar's thing, where you get just good enough. And the trick we have now is that we're going to find out who the A players really are. Because we're going to have a couple of tough quarters ahead of us. It's going to bounce back. Everybody's going to be fine. But the deals are going to be few and further apart. They're going to be slower and smaller. People are going to take less and less conversations and meetings. So the people who know how to do this, who practice it, who want to become great at it, are the ones that are going to thrive. And the ones who don't, we're going to find out pretty quick. And this is why you have to have the mindset of a salespreneur, because you're going to find out exactly what type of employee you are. Because guess what? Sales is going to be cut because, they know what's going on. And we're not going to have events. Clearly, they've been canceled. So we have to become really good online, on the phone, through email. And you try and pitch the old-fashioned way, you're going to get burnt because people don't want to hear it. You want to help? You want to align with their goals? I can show you how. You want to understand how a company gets business done and why they need to act now and not wait till, everybody knows the future is bright and rosy again? You got to learn how companies get things done. So go to b2brevenue.com, check the training tab, schedule a time to talk with me. Don't wait. Utilize this time because in 2 months, when everything's back to normal, you're going to be like, geez, I wish I used that time better. Because what's going to end up happening? People are going to cancel vacations during the summer. They're going to work this summer. People are going to get back to seriousness and have to really produce. It's going to get sketchy, but it's all going to be okay. The great salespeople are going to utilize the time to become better. Hey, appreciate everybody's time. Make sure you're checking out the other two podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers. It's a Q&A type approach, very short, probably 5 to 10 minutes for each question. Also, the B2B Revenue Leadership Show, if you want to hear how sales leaders are doing it today, what they care about, what they want to see in interviews, what they do as far as training and making reps great, check it out. We'll see you next time. Also, connect up with me on LinkedIn. I'm running out of connections, but you can follow me. I'll get to the connections when I can. I also put the funny videos up on YouTube first, so go and subscribe over at YouTube. It's Maverick Method, all one word, over at YouTube. And we'll see you next time.